Hello, this is the second video in the series of data-driven testing using Alchemy. In this case, we're going to use synthetic data to fill out a form. We're not going to read the data from a file. We're going to let the system generate the data for us. And we're going to do it using the simpler of two techniques. Let me show you how this works. First, I'll go to a suite and I will record a simple test. I just need to add a test. Let's add a test called synthetic data. We'll record. URL's fine. Make my browser bigger. Reject the cookies. I'll select the contact form. And I'll just fill it in real quick with some static data that we will replace. Last name, company name, an email address, and a phone number. And we'll put a message in here. All right, not going to click submit. Just going to navigate back to the home page for this site and stop the recording. Let's take a look at what we just created. Rejected the cookies, navigate the contact form, filled out the form. That's it. Pretty easy. I am going to extract the form filling part out. I selected all the steps and then I'm going to deselect the first four. It's just easier to do it this way than to select all of the steps except the first four. So I'm going to convert that to a function. And this is called fill form with data. Ran it all together, but this will be just fine. Okay, let's take a look at the, let me save my test here. Let's take a look at the function we just created. Functions, okay, there it is. Okay, now you can see test first, test last, test code. We're going to replace that with synthetic data. Let's go over here. Alchemy has two forms of synthetic data. The easiest one to use is the one over in this data toolbox that's immediately available. So I'll look for a data source like first name. I'll move it over into my test where I type in first name. Then I typed in last name. I'll use the synthetic data form for last name. Do we have a company name we can use or something? The domain will work just fine there. We have an email address. We'll put in an email address. I'm going to skip the phone number and the message. I'm just going to let those stay static as they were. Let me save this. We'll go back to the test and we can see we're calling fill form with send data, and if I've done that correctly, it will make up random data and fill out that form. Move it over so you can see the screen. It did. It made up a name, Allison Gillespie. It's using AI to do this. It's not just making up random characters. They're actually trying to use first names and last names that are known to the world in one way or another. One of the advantages of using synthetic data in this way, where it fills out the form on the fly without creating any data set whatsoever, is I can easily set up a repeater. And if I go to my action toolbox, I'll show you how this works. Repeat. It's in here somewhere. So I drag the repeat action over. And I want to repeat it, let's just say 3 times. And the function name I want to use, I'll go back to my data toolbox, go down here to functions. And the function is fill form with sync data. All right, and I'm just going to delete that one where we called it a single time. So now I am doing 3 iterations of filling the form, and each iteration through it will use different data that was generated on the fly. Pretty cool. So let me just show you how this actually works, what it looks like. Remember, before we saw this run through 1 iteration, so it's running through 3 iterations now. It's making up a different name and contact every single time. Okay, works perfectly. If I go back over here, I can increase that count to 5 or 6. I'm going to just go ahead and let it run, say, 8 times while I talk to you for a second here. Why would you want to do something like this? So there it is. While it's executing, I'll explain. If you were tracking down a data leak, or a possible memory leak, for example, I may want to run my test. I may want to run iterations over and over again of a certain function or certain field using certain data, using different data. The number of iterations matters. The leak may not be exposed until I get to 100 iterations or 500 iterations. I certainly don't want to make up records in a file that many. I also don't want to use static data every single time because the application may end up caching that and then we would not expose the memory leak. So this is a valid test that can be used in many situations. There are some disadvantages to it. The flexibility you have with the data, forming custom fields, for example, is not here when you're using this quick form of synthetic data. There's another form of synthetic data where you have more control over, which I will show you in the next installment of data-driven testing using Alchemy. Thank you.